Good morning, Year 3, and welcome back. I hope you had a fantastic Easter holiday. Today, during your writing lesson, I would like you to write a character description of the hideous, grotesque and gruesome monsters Hamish encountered during our last chapter of Hamish and the Worldstoppers. During maths, I'd like you to continue to look at equivalent fractions. And then, this afternoon for RE, we're going to look at the character of Doubting Thomas, or I should say Saint Thomas. Okay, without further delay, Hamish and the Worldstoppers. Chapter 11, Nightfall. That night, quite understandably, Hamish was too scared to fall asleep. The world had gone from fascinating to terrifying in the space of a starkly afternoon. Hamish couldn't get the things out of his mind. What were they? Why had they come? He'd begged Jimmy to let him sleep in his room with him, but Jimmy was in a foul mood. Felicity wasn't returning his Skype requests or answering his texts, so he informed Hamish he would be actually concentrating on composing some pretty dark poetry this eventide. Robin had called around, and Hamish tried to work up the courage to tell him about the evil, lolloping monsters. But then Robin screamed, because he thought he saw a burglar that turned out to be just his own reflection in the mirror. He told Hamish he'd better go home and have a lie down after that, especially because it would be getting dark in a couple of hours. Last of all, Hamish tried to talk to his mum, but she was so overwhelmed by a mountain of paperwork that he lost all confidence. She kept tutting at a big red graph on her laptop and saying, "Oh dear me, what now?" How do you bring up the subject of enormous, slithering, white-faced monsters leaping all over town when someone is up to their elbows in silly complaints about how much a pineapple costs, or how their windows keep cracking, or how someone thinks a dog looked at them funny? But the really bad thing was this. Since he'd gone to bed, Hamish had realised that it's one thing when the world stops during the day. It's easy to tell when it happens. The silence is the first thing you notice, like someone turning off a television. And it's light in the day, so you see it all. You see the car fumes that freeze from exhaust pipes. You see the way that cars stop in the middle of the road as they prepare to turn left or right, their orange indicator no longer flashing. You see people chatting outside silent cafes, not realising that their conversation has paused, and that the thoughts they are sharing hang between them. You see the dog by the tree, with his leg cocked into the air, starting what it will never know will be the longest pee of its life. In short, there are things you can notice when the world stops during the day. But at night, well, at night, it's just you. In your room, on your own, in the dark. Who knows what could be going on outside? Who knows what could be outside? This is what slowly began to scare Hamish as he lay there, the covers pulled right up to his nose. He held his breath and just listened, trying to hear anything that might prove the world was still going and that he was safe. But everything was quiet. He couldn't even hear his mum doing the dishes or watching the news, because she'd gone to bed ages ago. Hamish felt very alone. Had the world paused? Were those things coming? And finally, in the distance, he heard the bark of a dog. Hamish relaxed his tense shoulders and slept and began to dream. It was a music lesson at school. Everything had been pretty normal until Hamish noticed one of the tubers had grown legs and started dancing. No one else seemed to think it was strange. Only Hamish could see the dancing tuber, and he didn't know whether to tell anyone. The dancing tuber, who seemed to be called Pablo, craned its neck and nodded with its fatter end at the window. There was a blackbird there. Hamish and the blackbird were flying high now, way up in the sky above Starkley, through cloud after cloud. Hamish was seeing the town in a way that no other kid has ever seen it. The blackbird was showing him the way home. They landed on his window ledge, and Hamish clambered inside. He noticed he was in his pyjamas now. He climbed into bed and pulled the covers up tight. And just as he was drifting off, there was a flash. He opened his eyes as his heart began to race, and then another flash. This flash lit up a silhouette at his window. Dad? Was it his dad? But there was a final, slow flash, which showed Hamish the horrible truth. There was a monster at his window. It just stood there, now lit by the moon, staring into his room. He could see the breath rising from its nose. He could see the tusks. Hamish couldn't move. He knew this monster had come for him. "Did you sleep well, chicken?" asked his mum over breakfast. She was getting ready for work. Monday was going to be tough. Mind you, every day was difficult nowadays. The complaints were really starting to flood in. Mr. Slackjaw was now more certain than ever that something was going on with his mopeds. Old Mr. Neat had written his 300th furious letter about the town clock never running on time. The only thing people weren't complaining about was not having enough to complain about. Hamish's mum was sure that it was just a matter of time, though. Hamish was still in his H pyjamas. He was pretty tired. He'd stopped being scared by the dream, though. He was more fascinated by Pablo the dancing tuba. If dreams were supposed to mean something, what did a shimmying Spanish brass section mean? Hamish decided that bit probably didn't mean much at all. But if there was one thing last night had taught him, it was that he didn't want to be alone. Not the next time there was a pause. No way. And there was only one person who could do what he could do. He needed to find the girl with the blue streak in her hair. So, who is this girl with the blue streak in her hair? Hamish needs to find her, and he needs to find her fast. I hope you've enjoyed today's reading Year 3. If you have any questions, or if you'd like to share your work with me today, please do email me at year3@stalburnrc.beham.sch.uk. Until tomorrow, look after yourselves, stay safe, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye-bye.